Hey friends, this class is called What Makes You Come Alive. If you have access to a block and a strap, they'll be really useful for our practice. If you don't have a strap at home, know that you can improvise. Use a belt, use a tie, use a towel. We are going to take our time with this practice, and we're going to start in a form of a child's pose. If child's pose is not a way that you like to start an asana practice, your body needs some time before it can sink that deeply into hips or knees. Welcome yourself to a different seated or reclined position, and I'll indicate when you can catch up with us. For those of us that are going to take the child's pose, you could choose to widen knees and thighs away from one another or keep thigh bones running parallel. We're going to crawl ourselves down. Rest the forehead. If the earth feels really far away, you could always elect to bring a block or a towel or a blanket or even folded hands under the space of your forehead. As we do in every class, we'll take a moment to arrive into our first shape. Arriving by working to shift and adjust the body to some form of comfort. And beginning to direct our attention onto the current of our breath. How do you meet yourself here in this moment with this breath? How might you encourage the growth and movement of this breath to become completely expansive, filling you with life? Through our study of asana practice, a quality of focus is incredibly beneficial to us as we move consciously through these different shapes, inviting the breath into all the nooks and crannies of our inner self, exploring how it is that the heart and the mind weave through our actions. As you indulge in this first moment of surrendering the weight of the body and the fullness of the attention onto the breath, I'd love to share with you some simple words as we begin. These words are really influential in my life. Consider for yourself. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. Draw the biggest breath yet down into the base of yourself, and let it go completely. Staying in this reclined shape, we're going to push into the surface of our hands and walk your hands over toward the left edge of the mat until you feel like you're stretching your heart toward or on top of your left thigh bone. When you get to a place that you feel like your right sit bone is going to lift, or you really achieve a long stretch through your right side body, pause. Work to surrender the weight of your head through the gate of your upper arms, maybe even keeping contact with the floor. And breathe one more huge breath through your right rib cage. And wait for an inhale and walk yourself back to center until arms stretch straight out of hips. And then use an exhale and make your way to the right side, the same thing. I often like to walk to a place where I am connecting to the inner edge of my right thigh and really stretching from my left armpit back down to the crease of my hip, working to sink the weight of hips continuously back toward my heels. Take one more big expansive breath here. And then walking back to center with one more inhale. Pause through the release of the exhale, release the weight of the body. And then push through hands and knees with an in-breath and float up to a tabletop pose. We're gonna narrow our knees so they're no wider than our hips. The hands take a generous spread to stand down under the shoulders. And with an inhale, you're going to start to thread your heart forward. Lift your gaze to where it's comfy. And then with an exhale, push the floor away and around the back. Release your head. Good. A few more like this, sliding the breastbone and the tailbone with an inhale, arc in the low back body. And then with an exhale, rounding the whole space at the back, releasing the head through the upper arms. Follow your breath for 2 more. Every inhale, an opportunity to stretch the front of the body. And every exhale, an opportunity to release the space of the back body, the shoulders, the neck. Next time you inhale, lift your gaze forward. We're going to readjust the hands another 6 to 8 inches in front of the shoulders. And with a generous spread of your fingers, tuck your toes and pull your hips back to your first downward facing dog. And often we like to take a little bit of interested, curious movement when we get into our dog poses, particularly for the first time. So if it feels intuitive to your body to pedal through the knees, sinking one heel, and then the other, do that. Maybe a moment to sweep hips around, side to side, creating stretch through our side waist. And often I really like to keep more flexion in both my knees, tip my tailbone up really nice and high so I can get a long stretch from wrists, through shoulders, through whole length of back body. And then keeping that, start to straighten the legs until wherever it is that loving pull comes into the back of the legs, and take one more generous breath. Now look to the hands and use your next exhale to walk or take a single step to the top of the mat. When you get here, elevate your chest up halfway, maybe support fingertips onto shins. And then when you exhale, drape and let the upper body go. With an inhale, circulate arms high, stretch up, reach up. And with an exhale, clear your hands down into your heart space and take a pause for a breath. Pressing evenly into the 4 corners of your feet to the mat, closing down eyes if you feel steady enough to do so. And with hands resting here in your heart space, taking a clear moment for yourself to ask, what makes me come alive? In dedication to that, let's find some rhythm. Crack your eyes open, use a big in-breath, stretch up. And then with an exhale, flex through your knees, take a slow dive and fold. Come halfway up with an inhale, slide your chest forward. And then with an exhale, release your fingertips and step your right foot back. We're gonna lower the knee to the ground. In-breath, arms sweep up really nice and high, low lunge pose. With an exhale, hands come down to frame your front foot. We're gonna pick up the back knee and step backward to downward facing dog. Take a nice big spread of the fingers and then use an inhale and push forward on your toes, plank pose. With an exhale, come down with control through a push-up. Cobra pose with an in-breath, roll your chest open. And then downward facing dog, pulling the hips back. Keeping hands really nice and plugged and whole back body reaching long. Use an inhale to reach your right leg high. With an exhale, step the right foot through to the hands at the front and lower the back knee down to the earth. Inhale, arms sweep up to the sky, low lunge pose. Exhale, hands release to frame your front foot, and we're gonna push through that foot to step forward. Half extension at the top of the mat. Exhale, release your head and fold. Good, arms to the sky, big bright in-breath. Hands through the center with an exhale. Let's do one more. Inhale. And swan dive with an exhale, forward fold. Half extension with an in-breath, opening the chest. Simple forward fold to release the fingertips, step the left foot back and lower the knee to the ground. Inhale, arms sweep high, low lunge. Exhale, hands come to frame the front foot, and we'll step straight through to downward facing dog. With an in-breath, we pulse forward to a plank, and with an exhale, we release that plank with control. Cobra pose, or up dog if you would prefer, and then downward facing dog, pulling hips back. Again, fingers spread, inhale, left leg rises. With an exhale, step the foot through to the hands and lower your back knee. In breath, arms reach up nice and high. Exhale, use the whole breath to release the fingers, pick up the back knee and step forward. Half extension with your inhale. Release to fold with your exhale. Arms to the sky, big slow in breath. Hands through the center, come down. A change to the cycle, big inhale, stretching high. Slow exhale, forward fold, get some length. Half extension, reach the heart up away from the tail. Exhale to release, hands are gonna press. We'll use an in-breath to step back to plank pose, lengthening the entire body. And when your exhale comes, pull your hip creases straight back out behind you and find downward facing dog. So into this downward dog for an extra breath, a really beautiful spread of the fingers gives us access to really feel the full lengthening stretch that we might get through our entire spine. So pulling the weight back from our wrist creases. Keep the hands steady, use an inhale to reach the right leg up nice and high. It might even feel good to bend the knee and stack the hip at the top, feeling a big reach of the right kneecap toward the ceiling. Good, look toward the hands, step this foot all the way through to the front. And we're going to adjust so we can keep our left knee lifted and our left hand on the floor. You can flatten the hand, tent it, or even put a block. You're going to leave the right hand onto the right thigh bone so we can roll our whole chest up and open. So both shoulders are looking to loop onto the back. Keeping the space of an open chest, reach your right fingertips up toward the ceiling, creating extra space across the front of your chest. Really empower your left leg to help lift you out of the hips. And take one more big breath. Good, when your exhale comes, release your hand back down to your front foot, lower the back knee down to the floor, and we're gonna draw the weight of the hips backward so that we can lengthen the whole space of the back of the right leg. I really like to kick my heel a little bit forward, create an open space to really reach my heart forward to my toes. You can always use blocks to bring the floor a bit closer. Stretch through the base of the back of the leg. Take one more really lovely long breath. Yeah, with an inhale, we're gonna work our way forward. Bring right foot back to the floor. Frame the foot with hands. Left knee's gonna lift. And you're gonna reach right leg back up into the sky behind you where we started. Bend the knee and crack the hip open, three-legged downward facing dog. Good, when your exhale comes, lower these toes beside their pair. Stay for a moment to indulge in your breath, or move through a cycle of vinyasa that will help you stay linked in with breath. Inhale forward to a plank pose. Exhale, releasing with control. Cobra pose or up dog, inhale. And then downward facing dog, drawing back with an exhale. Fingers are beautifully spread, tails lifting high. And when an in-breath comes, the right leg again lifts up behind us. Good, with an exhale, we're gonna step right foot through to the hands at the front. Lower the left heel this time for warrior two. Blade edge of the left foot runs parallel to the back side of the mat. We're gonna take the arms up in a cartwheel action, windmilling forward and backward, sinking into the heat of the legs. Find a gentle revision with your warrior two, where there's a soft lift to the front of the pubic bone toward the belly button, reminding us of this inner strength. One more nice big breath, sinking into the warmth of our warrior posture. And with an inhale, straightening slowly out through the right leg, keeping both legs strong and sideways lifted, we're gonna cartwheel to triangle pose. Front hand comes down toward the back of front shin, or maybe toward the earth, maybe on a block. Revolve the whole top side waist open. Continually lift out of the space of the chest through the top arm. Breathe in one more. Good, with an exhale, you're gonna look down, frame both hands around right foot. So left heel's gonna lift up. And then pushing through the full foundation of your right foot, you're gonna reach left leg high to the sky. Now I'm gonna leave it to you. Hip can be open or closed, but I'd love you to feel an application of your right foot so you get a big stretch out of both legs. Take one more big full breath. And then with fingertips connected, you're gonna reach far back with your left toes so that you can step through a variation of a runner's lunge. Press both hands evenly to the floor and step your right foot back to meet it in a plank pose. Take a big breath to collect the strength of your center, lift from your belly through your chest, and then with an exhale, drag your hips back and meet me in downward facing dog. Big smooth breath in, regulating. Full body breath out. Hands stay plugged. Inhale, left leg reaches high this time. If it feels good, bend the knee and crack the hip at the top. Look forward to your hands, use an exhale to step the left foot through the front, all the way to the hands. And right hand's gonna stay pressed under the shoulder, flattened, tented, or on a block. Left hand is onto the top of the left thigh bone to lift and rotate your chest open toward the left edge. So we're rolling the whole rib cage up. And if it feels good when we get here, we can take the hand off the thigh bone and reach fingertips high to the sky. Breathe. Good. When your next exhale comes, release hands down to frame this front foot. We're gonna lower the back knee and then slowly draw hips back so we can get right hip to stack over right knee and left heel kicks forward. In my body, I always have to kick it a little further forward. Pull your heart up towards your toes. Tip your sit bones back behind you so you're creating that lengthening space of the whole back body. And breathe into the action that you're gonna be feeling through the back of the right leg, left leg, pardon me. Really good. When your next exhale comes, we'll slowly walk out. Bring yourself forward so the foot comes back to the floor, the hands come to frame the foot, and you're gonna push strongly enough in that you can reach left leg back out behind you, three-legged dog. Again, if it feels good, you could play with opening the hip and then lowering those toes to the floor. With a nice lift of the tail and a press through the inner knuckles of the hands, assess how the body and the breath are feeling in this moment. Choose to stay steady for a few more breaths here or push forward on your toes with an inhale to a plank and then exhale, release with control. Cobra pose or up dog with an inhale and then downward facing dog draws us back with an exhale. Left leg raises high in breath. Exhale, left foot through to the hands. We're setting up for a warrior two on the second side. So the back heel turns and plugs down and the arms lift in a spread open action, lifting shoulders out of hips. Sometimes the warriors don't land instantly, so give yourself space to really carve out a posture that feels full for you. It feels strong and spread and sustainable. Monitor the breath here. One more, extending the chest. With an in-breath, drawing the front leg towards straight, both legs are straight. Engage the inner thighs, lift the armpits away from your hips, and then with an exhale, really take your time to reach toward your front shin and the ceiling simultaneously. And depending on how you feel in the back of the legs, you can slowly travel this left hand to find support. Again, maybe to the back of the shin bone, maybe toward the earth, maybe onto a block. Roll both shoulder blades onto the back to keep the chest spread. Take one more. Awesome. When your exhale comes, look down toward your front foot, release your hands, spin the back heel up off the mat so that all 10 toes are facing the front. And we're gonna push through our left foot to find standing splits at the top. So again, we're looking for stability first and foremost, pushing down through the left foot and then seeing about getting a length through the right leg. Again, it doesn't matter to me if your hip is open or closed. Reach through this hip. Breathe one more. Good, and then you're gonna pull the right toes as far back as you can. So we're moving through a lunging posture. Left foot stays to the floor at first. Hands push to plug, and then we're gonna step left foot back to meet right. Take a big breath in to collect strength into your belly, pull it forward out of your chest. And then with an exhale, lift your hips high and find downward facing dog. Big, fluid, beautiful breath in and out. Looking up to your hands, use an exhale to walk, step, or gently hop to the top. Halfway up when you land here. Smooth fold, let it go. Arms to the sky, big, bright in breath. And then hands through the center, come down. You're gonna find some change. Big inhale, lift up. And then with an exhale, dive forward, exhale. Halfway up, inhale, open your chest. Exhale, release your fingertips, step your right foot back. We're gonna take a crescent lunge, high lunge variation. So your back heel is gonna stay lifted. You're really pressed through your front foot, and with an inhale, you can reach shoulders up out of hips, lunge pose. Now the longer the lunge is, the more that we compromise the stability. Use the power of the legs and pull it up into your belly so that you're very stable through the space of your belly. And if you feel stable here, you're gonna lace your back 3 fingers, keep your index finger reaching straight up, and extend a little bit longer from your hips through your armpits, up through your fingertips. Breathe here, one more nice, beautiful, big breath. Good, when your next exhale comes, you're gonna challenge yourself to lower the back knee slowly toward the earth. And then taking these thread fingers, bring them back behind you. Continually pull the front of the navel in, and slowly and steadily, we're gonna roll and spread our heart toward the ceiling. Elbows wide, back of the head cradled into open hands. One more big, beautiful breath. With an exhale, hands are gonna come down, frame your left foot. And again, we're gonna pull the hips back so that right hip can balance over right knee and left heel is extended out long in front of us. Now this variation of Hanumanasana, our half version, Ardha Hanumanasana, can stay here, back hip stacked, or if it feels good in your body, kick it a little further forward. You can even decide to nurse the knee, the back knee backward, find a spread. One of the things that I really like to do in my body, I find Hanumanasana challenging, is to place a block under my front thigh bone so there's a space to sink to. Breathe here, one more really long, fluid breath. Good. When your exhale comes, you're gonna bring your left foot back to the floor, plug hands to frame this foot, lift back knee, and step back to downward facing dog. Take a big, bright, full breath in and out. Option for a vinyasa to move or to skip. Inhale forward to a plank. Exhale, release the pose. Cobra pose or up dog with an inhale. Exhale, drawing back. From the downward dog, we're gonna use our next exhale to bring our knees back to the floor, variation of a tabletop pose. From here, you're gonna turn the right toes off the mat, almost creating a little tripod, and then you're gonna extend the left foot to the back of the mat, turn the whole sole of the foot down so the toes are facing your left edge. Move your right hand a little bit in front of your right shoulder, so the wrist crease isn't stacked into the shoulder, there is a bit of a diagonal. When you feel steady, you're gonna pull strength into your belly and lift and elevate your left leg straight out of your left hip. If this feels good, you can also reach left hand up toward the sky. This is a grounded variation of our half moon posture, Ardha Chandrasana. You're either gonna stay here or continue to consider playing with a bind of your elevated foot. Bend through the left knee, and if it's available, catch the foot behind your sit bone. Use the connection to roll the shoulder onto the back and maybe even lift your heart and your gaze. Last breath. Good, look down. With an exhale, you're gonna release everything. Bring your left hand back to the floor, your left knee. Pull the right toes back out from the space of the knee, maybe even take a sway. Then we're gonna tuck our toes and meet back in regular downward facing dog. Good, with an inhale, reach your right leg up really nice and high behind you. And then with an exhale, look forward to your hands and step the right foot through to the front of the mat. Back heel's gonna turn and spin for warrior two, and we're gonna lift ourselves all the way up and open, variation, warrior two with some strength. Sink into that front hip, lift the belly so that we're sure there's security. And then from here, you're gonna use your next exhale to bring your back hand to your back hip. I like to shorten my stance, so bring the back foot in one or two, and we're gonna take this pose off to full Ardha Chandrasana. Your front fingertips can reach a good foot or so out in front of your front foot, or it might be really smart to use a block. I recommend bringing the hand to the pinky toe side of the foot, press evenly through all four corners of your right foot, and lift your left foot straight out of your hip. Now we're wanting to do the same thing with our left leg as we were just doing in the variation where our knee was on the earth. The left leg is reaching straight out of the hip socket and the toes are pulling back to help us roll the hip open. If this is feeling good, you're also going to reach your left hand up to the sky and your gaze can be wherever it is that it helps you hold stability. From here, you're gonna look down and see if you can release your hands and then roll on the hip so that you're turning the toes to face the earth. This really rolls the outer edge of the left hip down to square the hips off. Pull your chest forward and take a big breath. Exhale, release the crown of the head to the floor and keeping this neutralized aspect to your pelvis so the hip internally rolled, reach that left leg to wherever it is that it says stop, and then lower the toes to the ground. Come halfway up, and then take a fold. Arms to the sky with a big inhale. You're gonna keep them up. The next time you exhale, you're gonna see if you can transfer your weight into your left foot and reach the right knee out in front of you. It might take a moment to catch your stability, so give yourself a sec. Open up through the space of the front of the chest. If it feels available, you're gonna slide the right hand down to the front edge of the ankle to hook the right heel back behind your sit bone. When you get here, keep the stability of your standing left leg, pull the belly back, and then using the strength of your arm, pull the heel in towards your sit bone until you get a really nice open stretch through the front edge of the right thigh. And if it feels good, also reach the left fingertips to the sky so you're moving in two directions of energy and strength. Good, when your exhale comes, you're gonna try to let that foot go and step it down. Beautiful, let's try the second side. Big inhale. Forward fold with an exhale. Half extension, lift your chest. And then simple fold. So stable with the fingertips, left foot steps back, heel stays lifted, knee stays lifted, and we're gonna lift up slow, high lunge pose. From the high lunge, we're looking to extend the sides and maybe you're gonna bind the back three fingers, extending Kali Mudra straight out of your shoulders. Stability riding up from the rooting of our feet into the strength of our legs and the lift of our belly. Take one more. Good, with an exhale, you're gonna lower this left knee. You're gonna take your hands into complete threading, cradle the back of the head, spread the front of the chest open, and the belly's gonna stay lifted as your heart rolls up and open, only to a place that the breath can stay full. One more. Good, with an exhale, release your hands to frame your right foot, and we're gonna pull the hips back again, so left hip stacks over the knee, and the right heel kicks out further in front of you. If you want a deeper expression of this, you can go ahead and lengthen the right heel further forward or tuck the left toe and scoot it back. Pull your chest forward to your toes. Find an edge that feels available and unforced. Honor the movement of the breath. We have just a couple more. Good, when your exhale comes, you're gonna rebend through your right knee, frame this foot with your hands, and step slowly back to find your downward facing dog. Big, nice spread of the fingers, and you can choose to catch up with your breath here or ride through the rhythm of a vinyasa, forward to a plank pose. Exhale with a controlled release. Cobra pose or up dog. Meeting back in downward facing dog. From your downward dog, you'll use an exhale, bring your knees back to the floor. We're gonna take this kickstand variation of an all fours on this side. So you're gonna take your left toes off the mat, extend the right leg back, and then turn so the whole blade of the foot, whole pad of the foot can plug into the mat. Left hand is in front of your left shoulder at a diagonal. And then with hand up onto the hip, you're gonna pull up into the strength of your belly and try to elevate this entire right side. So right foot is coming straight out of the right hip, strength of the leg, and maybe the openness of the arm to the sky. You can stay here. This is a really nice stable way to explore this. Or if it's available, you're gonna bend the knee and see if you can find a bind of the foot back behind the sit bone. If you can, you're rolling both shoulders onto the back. So looping the tips of the arm bones onto the back, spreading the chest. Notice where the breath goes. And release, you're gonna look back down. Bring your right hand back to the mat. Bring knee back beneath you. So knees are stacked under hips, Hands are 6 to 8 inches in front of shoulders, and we'll tuck the toes and lift our bum high. Nice big spread of the fingers, and we're gonna go to the left side. Big inhale, left leg lifts up high, three-legged down dog. Look forward to your hands, use an exhale to step it through to the front. We're gonna drop back heel for warrior two, and when you're ready, lift your warrior. Spread everything open. Strength that rebounds up from the legs gives us room to really sink into this fierce warrior with a known action. We're gonna take our warrior two and turn it into our half moon posture, so our back hand rides onto the hip. You could even choose to shorten the stance. Bring your fingertips to the floor or to the block and extend by standing into the left leg and extending the right leg straight out of the hip. Woo. This external rotation that we're finding in the right hip really broadens and opens the pelvis to the long side of the mat, and you may or may not choose to reach the right fingertips high as well. Breathe here one more. And then look down to the floor and see about gracefully, or as gracefully as possible, releasing to standing splits. So the fingertips come to the floor of the blocks, and we try to square off the hip, dropping the outer edge of our right hip down, neutralizing the hip points to face the mat. Pulling the toes back toward the shin might give us some strength here. And then once the hip is square, we're gonna try to lift the leg as high as we can lift it whilst keeping this square hip. Go, one more big breath. And using an exhale, lower the toes down to the floor. Pushing evenly through both feet, inhale halfway up. Exhale, let it go, drape and fold. Good, arms all the way up to the sky. Big inhale, you're gonna keep them up. Transfer your weight into your right foot, and with an exhale, you're gonna try to lift and catch your left knee in front of you. So this might be your wobbly side, and you can be okay with finding stability. Once you do, pull belly in. Try to thread left heel back behind the sit bone. And with everything cinching into a long straight line, you may or may not reach right fingertips up as well. So there's a strength carved out from the belly that really helps us to pull everything into long, strong precision. We're really working to open the space of the front of the thigh of the left leg. So we're giving all the parts of the body equal responsibility in trying to open that space. And when your exhale comes, we're gonna let it go. Return to mountain pose or equal standing samastitihi. Take a moment and stand really tall. If you're super steady, close your eyes and just pause for a moment to feel what you feel. Not nearly enough do we pause in the pursuit of things. Do we pause in the midst of our action and just acknowledge what's present with us? What lights us up and makes us feel alive? What challenges us? What might even dull our brightness? Collect a full breath all the way out to the edges of you. And let it go. We'll take one more round of play. Crack your eyes open, use a big inhale, stretch up, let it feel good. And when your exhale comes, sweep and dive, forward fold. Half extension with an inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, release, fingertips to the floor, right foot all the way back, longest lunge that you can comfortably get to, and you're gonna lower your right knee down to the ground. Bring both hands into the inner edge of your front foot. Move this front foot 1 or 2 spaces, even 3 spaces off to the left edge of the mat. In my body, I like to tick-tock the toes. They're more at a 45-degree angle toward the top corner. And we're trying to give ourselves some access and some space to sink through this space of inner thighs here. To begin, walk your fingertips as far forward as is comfortable. And you can always use blocks if this feels like it's starting to become too hindering to groins or inner thighs. Wherever it is that you can choose to comfortably pause and breathe a couple of breaths, you're gonna do that. Good. Keeping the right hand pressed to the floor, tented or flattened. You're gonna bring your left hand up toward the left thigh again. You're gonna roll the chest open like we had done in our revolved lunge. But this time, if it feels available, you're gonna bend to the back knee and see if you can reach your left hand for your right foot. Now, once you have the bind, if you get the bind, you're gonna try to pull the heel in toward the sit bone until the front of that thigh, the front of your quadriceps says hello. and then simultaneously work to sink your pubic bone back down towards your left heel. Keep all of this and roll your chest open to the ceiling. So the tips of both arm bones are rolling open onto your back. And take a last breath. Good. Release the hands, and we're gonna work the left foot back in till it's between our hands. Back knee's gonna lift up. And as we had done before, we're gonna step to standing splits, committing through the left foot and reaching the right leg up nice and high. Good. From this length of our right leg, we're gonna try to actually pull the knee in toward us. So the next time you inhale, you're gonna look forward, commit through your left foot, and then slowly try to rise to a standing splice where your right knee comes in towards your chest. Good. If this feels steady, you're gonna take the hand, slide it down toward the ankle, pull the heel back behind the sit bone. And this time we're gonna crack the left arm open toward the sky in preparation for dancer. Pull the belly in toward the spine, softly hinge through your left hip crease, and then kick your right foot into your hand into variation of dancer pose. Breathe here. From our dancer pose, if we can come to a place where we feel quite stable through our hinging, you may or may not be interested to release the fingertips to the earth using a block if it's more available, and then kick your right foot into your right hand so you can roll the whole shoulder onto the back, variation chapasana. Stretch through the quadricep, stretch through the sides, keep your breath moving. You're gonna look down and try to release this right foot and right fingertips to the floor. Good, fingertips to shins, inhale halfway up. Exhale, let it go. Beautiful, arms to the sides, inhale, lift up. Exhale, hands through the center of the chest. Let's do it one more time. Inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Half extension, chest comes to rise. And then simple forward fold. Support a fingertip, step left foot all the way back. Longest lunge that you can comfortably take. Lower the knee down to the ground. Hands are gonna rest inner edge of front foot. We're gonna walk this foot 1 or 2 or 3 spaces off toward the right edge. The idea is that we're looking for clearance on the inner sides of the groin. So giving ourselves an equal opportunity through both sides of the body to find some sink. You can keep your hands rested beneath you, or if it's available, you're gonna walk the fingertips further forward. So we're getting a little bit more space out of the sides. Breathe into the places of the body that are gonna be the most activated here, the most alive. And trusting into the current of the breath, we're gonna have one more. Really good. Slowly and steadily, we're gonna walk fingertips back toward. You're gonna keep the left hand to the floor, so you can keep it under the shoulder. You can tent it, you can use a block. Right hand's gonna come up onto right thigh, so we can roll the chest open. So bust up 1, hand to the thigh, stay here. Bust up 2, fingertips to the sky, spread the chest open. Bust up 3, bend through this back knee and see if we can hook onto the blade edge of the foot. I like to turn my thumb up so that I'm holding onto the exterior edge of the foot. This gives access to roll your whole top shoulder onto your back. Pulling the heel into the sit bone. We're gonna take one more big breath here. Good, with the exhale, you're gonna let this go. You're gonna move your right foot back into center for stability. And with fingers connected and back knee lifting, we're gonna push through to standing splits at the front. So, second time through this, we know that we're really gonna want some stability out of this right leg. Begin to lift your chest up, so the belly's gonna work a bit here. And from here, we're gonna try to pull the left knee in toward us as we elevate on the right foot and come to stand. And if you step out and come back, it's really not a big deal. Pull the belly in toward and see if you can slide hands down to hold the outer edge of the ankle or wrap around the blade of the foot. Pull length all the way up through the side waist, so maybe even right fingertips can reach. And then with an exhale, if we feel steady, we're gonna kick open to our dancer pose. So, like the thigh stretch we had done before, the whole body is involved here, kicking the foot into the hand to open the chest, standing through the right leg. And then if we're interested in enough of a hinge, you might even bring your right fingertips down to catch the floor or the blocks. Pushing through the stable places of your body, roll the chest open to the long edge of the mat, kick your foot into your hand, breathe, Woo! One more. Good. Look down, release the foot, release the hands, release the head, and it might even feel good to take a gentle sway. Really good work. Breath coming all the way in and all the way out. And then come all the way back into center with your sway. Fingertips will hold you to the floor. You're gonna heel toe the feet away from one another. Toes turning into an opposite 45-degree turnout, and you're gonna softly drop your hips down towards your heels in variation malasana. See what you can do to lift your chest up proud and high. Taking one more really bright, brave breath. And fingertips back down to the floor, and with an inhale, hips up, head down, pivot on the feet, forward fold. Good, halfway lift with an inhale. Sweet fold with an exhale, let it go. Hands plugged to the floor. You're gonna step back to one last plank pose. Pause here, pull the belly up, pull the chest forward, and then when you exhale, you're gonna pull your hips straight back to downward facing dog. One last long stretch in down dog, fingers super spread, sit bones reaching out really nice and high, and heels maybe or maybe not sinking a little closer toward the earth. When you exhale, knees are gonna come to the earth, hips are gonna drop back to your heels, and for just a moment or so, we land back into child's pose. Let the breath come back into a smooth rhythm. A rhythm that's yours and yours alone. When you're ready to, push both hands into the floor, lift and elevate your chest, and kick your feet off to one side. We're gonna scoot ourselves forward. And at this point, this is where we're gonna wanna grab onto our strap, if it's available. I'm gonna take the strap into hands, have it handy, and then lower down onto our back body. When you get here, unravel. Keep both feet for a moment resting onto the mat and adjust the space of your back body so everything is neutralized and supported. Back of the hips are resting, soft, neutral curve in the lumbar spine present. Shoulders melting in beneath, back of the head evenly rested. Right knee's gonna draw up and toward us, and we're gonna wrap the bottom of the right foot, the ball of the right foot, so we can extend the sole of the foot toward the sky. Now the beautiful thing about using a strap is there's really no excuses to keep the back of the head grounded. You can choose in your own body if you're gonna keep the left foot on the floor or slide it further out in front of you. And then using some friction onto the strap, pull the foot in toward your body, extending heel toward the sky as much as feels manageable. So the leg doesn't have to be all the way straight, and it doesn't really matter how close your hands get to the foot. Let's take one more really nice big breath here. And we're gonna collect both sides of the strap in the right hand. And you're gonna lay your left arm to the floor, really trying to sweep this left shoulder blade right beneath the back body. From here, you're gonna use the strength of the strap into the right hand to slowly open the right foot toward the right side. Now a subtlety is continually spin your toes to point toward the floor, allowing the femur bone to rotate externally in its hip socket. Let the back of the hips really rest, and notice particularly if the left hip point or the back of the left glute wants to lift up off the floor. Wherever that outer edge is, you'll know it. Pause and take 2 big breaths. When your inhale comes, use your arm to help guide the foot back into center. We're gonna change hands with our strap. The right arm now lays out in a T shape, and you're gonna use the left hand and strap to allow this leg to rotate across your body. Wherever it is that the outer edge is, again, you'll know. It would be fantastic if both shoulders stay grounded. We're really working to stay heavy and sinking through the crest of the upper back. At this point, we're really softening off through the belly and the face. Use an inhale, lift this leg all the way back up to center, indulge in a breath at the top. And then with an exhale, rebend the knee, and it might feel good to just stretch everything down the mat. I like to start with both feet back on the floor, so bend your knees when you're ready. Make sure that the spine still has all of those neutral curves. Lift the left knee up and towards you and wrap the bottom of the left foot. When you're ready, extend the sole of the foot to the ceiling. Rest the crest of the upper back, the head. Breathe into the places that are being tenderly affected. And bringing the strap only into the left hand. Again, right leg can stay bent or the leg can extend to the floor. You're going to open the right arm and begin to open the left leg to the left. Go 1 inch, 1 centimeter, 1 millimeter at a time. So you're moving in a way that is really sustainable to the body. And again, we're continually looking to tip and revolve the toes to point down toward the floor. Breathing into this expanding landscape into our inner groins, our inner thighs, our outer hip. One more. Good, and then slowly again lifting this leg all the way back up to center, changing hands with the strap, and slowly bringing this leg across our body to wherever it is that our body says stop. Again, it doesn't matter if the hip or the glute roll up, even the space of the low back, but if we can keep the upper back connected, it will give us a true mobility to wherever it is that this range might be comfortably found in the space of our mid to low back, outer glute, IT. Good. When your inhale comes, let's come back up to center one last time. And when you get the leg back up to center, indulging in a final breath, we'll bend the knee and release the strap completely, bringing it off to the side. Hug both knees in towards you when you're ready. Feel this action of taking a little bit of a rock or a sway or even circles. And then when you are feeling complete, or taking any last pose that might make you feel complete, welcome yourself to slide out onto the mat. And the beauty of practicing at home, of course, is that you will likely have creature comforts available. So if there's anything that you feel you need before you recline yourself back, please do. And when you get to the space where you join me on the mat, really invite the entirety of your body to sink. Feel the life and the vibrancy that you create from moving your tissue and your blood and your breath. Let the front edge of you sink into the true support of the back edge of you held by this mat. Let a final breath sweep through spaces that tend to become cluttered in life, places of the brain and places of the heart. For a moment here, this time is ours, and we can truly sink into it, completely giving ourselves to it. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Then go do that. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. I invite you to indulge in this sweet moment of rest with a moment of consideration and contemplation for yourself of what that is. And when you rise, when you're ready to do so, do it with a renewed commitment to yourself to seek that which makes you come alive. Namaste.